It was the United States that came out on top in the CONCACAF W Championship, winning 1-0 over Canada in the final. Here to break down the game is John Molinaro. All right, John, a bit of a tough penalty break for Canada, but what did you make of their efforts?
Well, obviously Canada's toughest test of this tournament. I mean, they really breezed through the group stage and the semifinals against Jamaica without too much bother. But this was, a completely different test against the Americans. Obviously, the U.S., the number one ranked team in the world, they didn't defend in a low block like Canada's previous opponents, and they really sort of made things uncomfortable for Canada for large stretches. And has to be said, if not for the play of Kaylin Sheridan in the Canadian net, the damage could have been much worse because she made some fantastic saves and really kept Canada in the game for long stretches. So a bit of a disappointing performance from Canada, if truth be told. I was expecting much more. Bev Priestman, the Canadian coach, said as much after the game when speaking to reporters. But I think overall there's a lot of positives that the Canadians can take away from this tournament in general.
Yeah, there has been comments about a lack of a bit of a cutting edge on Team Canada, and that plan worked in Tokyo, but we didn't see it work this time around in the final. So how is something like that fixed?
I think it's just sort of, doubling down on what worked for them in earlier games. When you look at the semifinal victory against Jamaica, a 3-0 win, all three sort of Canadian goals came off crosses into the box. Canada was really strong in their wing play down the flanks, whether it was through Jade Riviere or Janine Becky, who Becky was, I think, one of the top players in this tournament. She finished with, a tournament high three assists. The U.S. did a really good job of neutralizing Canada down the flanks and taking away their sort of dangerous play out wide. I think if Canada can get back to that and mix in with playing Sinclair in a more of a false nine period while pushing Jessie Fleming further forward, I think that could sort of reap benefits because we certainly saw a little bit of that earlier in the competition.
And looking forward, there is an Olympic qualifier versus Jamaica for Team Canada. Should be a bit of an easier game for them than this last one versus the U.S. John, give us a little preview of that match and what you expect to see.
Yeah, I think it's, as you alluded to, Jackie, Jamaica is a much lower ranked nation, and, Canada quite easily handled them 3-0 in the semifinals. I appreciate that Jamaica has made, a lot of sort of progress in the last few years. They've qualified for the World Cup. This is going to be their second trip, but they're nowhere near at the same level as Canada. They don't have the same amount of players playing at top level as the Canadians do. They don't have the same depth and quality on their bench. So I suspect it's going to be a rather, straightforward outing for Canada and just sort of a duplication of how they easily manhandled them in the semifinals in this competition.